Honestly, whenever I got scared as a kid, my father always told me one thing: don't fear ghosts, fear the living, because they can really hurt you. In my late teens, when I was about 27, I came into some money after my father, Mark, took his own life, and I received an inheritance. At the time of his passing, he and my mother, Elaine, owned a cabin up in Oregon near Mount Bachelor. The place had been put up for sale since my mother could no longer keep up the payments, and renting out hadn't covered the costs either. The cabin was set to hit the market in less than a month, and all the paperwork with the realtor and lawyer was being finalized. So for that month, it wasn't going to be rented. It would just sit empty. I saw that as a chance to get away and clear my head. So I quit my job for a while, packed up my snowboarding gear, grabbed my dog Shadow, and drove my father's car up to the cabin. The first couple of days were normal. I spent my time in the snow with Shadow, went snowboarding, and in the evenings played PlayStation, listened to music, drank, and smoked on the balcony. I'd already stocked up on food, cigarettes, and liquor, so I was pretty set. Aside from the occasional trip to the slopes, my dog and DVDs were company enough, and I started to relax after everything that had happened. The cabin was 2 stories. The ground floor had the living room, a small kitchen, and a guest bedroom. Upstairs were 2 more rooms and a walkout balcony off the master. Most of my time was spent in the living room, kitchen, or master bedroom. I never went into the other rooms and kept those doors shut. On the 3rd day, I was doing my usual thing, playing with Shadow, gaming, watching DVDs, but it was snowing hard that day, so I decided to stay inside. That's when things started to feel off. There were only 2 other cabins nearby, maybe a block apart, and the rest were a mile away, surrounded by dense forest and tall pines. Both of those cabins were empty, and I knew no one was staying there. Around midday, while outside with Shadow, I noticed what looked like fresh footprints in the snow around our cabin. It was still snowing, so they appeared to have been made only 20 or 30 minutes earlier. I figured maybe someone was staying in a nearby cabin I hadn't noticed. Maybe they were out like me. Whatever the case, the footprints led away from my place and vanished into the thicker trees, so I shrugged it off and went back inside. That night, Shadow was on the bed with me when his ears suddenly pricked. He leapt off and ran downstairs, pacing and making noise I could hear from a bedroom. After 5 minutes, he came back up and started his excited dance, signaling he needed to go out. So I took him to the driveway, but he didn't want to leave himself. Instead, he kept pulling toward the dense tree line and sniffing along the side of the house, even looking up at the roof. When I refused, he just sat and stared into the darkness, which was unlike him, so I pulled him back inside. About half an hour later, I was in bed and heard what sounded like hooves on the roof. 6 space steps that felt like a man-length stride. I told myself it could be a pine cone or some animal, but the rhythm was unsettling. Shadow bolted to the balcony screen door, expecting to be let out, so I grabbed my coat, shoes, cigarettes, and a flashlight and stepped onto the balcony. I smoked and swept the beam across the roof. Nothing. The snow was undisturbed, and I began to calm down, thinking maybe I'd let paranoia get the better of me. Then I saw it. In a tree about 20 feet from the balcony, a figure squatted between 2 branches. It looked enormous, like 8 or 9 feet tall, unnaturally skinny, with long pale arms reaching up to clutch the branch above and a slack, expressionless mouth. I froze. Shadow stood behind me, barking softly. I thought about shining my light directly at it, but some instinct screamed not to, so I stepped back inside, locked the door, and then forced the beam toward where it had been. Nothing. I drew the curtains and retreated to bed, but later heard a steady tapping on the screen door, like fingers drumming. That lasted nearly an hour. Shadow watched the door but wouldn't go near it, and I had the eerie sensation someone was inviting me to open it. At the same time, my father's voice echoed in my head telling me to stay put, so I listened. I eventually fell asleep and woke up in the morning, and it didn't take long for me to pack up and get the hell out of there.